ready, although it's still only 9:58.
9:58. Oh, we're too speedy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good as. Thank you. Good morning, councillors. For today is the Tuesday, the 6th of May, and we have our presentation meeting, and we have with us today Serena Dello and Bill Eschenbach from Waitaha Public Health. It's really wonderful to have you with us and give us an update on all things health within the Hiranui district. It's something that sits really close to all of us as elected members, and we know that the work that you do supporting our health centres, our 5 practices in the Hiranui is really critical. So we do warmly welcome you here. There's probably just a couple of things I need to whip through here before I hand over to you, but we haven't any apologies for today's meetings, councillors, so thank you. Our normal health and safety procedures do apply. If we did need to exit the building, out the door that you entered, or the door to my left, and our collection point is over by St John's. Given the agenda today, I'm not going to read the affirmation. No conflict in regard to today's agenda. We are recording our meeting, and just by way of normal business, is there any urgent business that we need to attend to today, councillors? No, that's fine. So I think that deals to all the things that we need to do. But as I said at the outset, it's great to have you both with us. We've got Tom, Dave and Ross coming in via remote access, and the rest of us obviously are in the room. So we've set aside about half an hour or thereabouts, Bill and Serena, for your presentation, and if I just hand over to you, then we can have some Q&A or just however it fits. Does that work for you? Perfect. Okay, your floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for having us in. It's nice to come in and provide an update. There's always a lot going on in health, particularly politically at the moment, which Bill, I guess, is more all over and will cover as he can. From my point of view, I guess there's been a period of time where mental health has been really, really visible in the community, and I feel like that's dropping off in favour of food and housing security, which is what it is, but something as councillors that you have close to your hearts and a little bit of control over, so that's something to bear in mind. The COVID time of year for getting your vaccines, so as you can, if you can push that out, trying to keep our communities safe by getting them vaccinated, particularly the older members of our community. I don't need to make eye contact for them. And Waitaha PHO just had an audit recently, which we came through with absolute flying colours, and I wanted to share that here, and I'm sure Bill's got more to say about it, because it just attests to the governance and the management that Bill puts over the PHO, and it was very, very thorough, and you can rest assured that your PHO is doing things by the book, because someone has checked very, very thoroughly that that's the case, which is exciting for us and was I guess reassuring for the community. That's pretty much all I've got.
How often does that audit come around? Is that a 3-year thing, is it, or?
It's a special routine audit, which hasn't happened before.
So in 22 years, we've never been through that process. It will become a routine function now, every 3 to 4 years. It will be subject to that. So all our contracts, our finances, our governance mechanisms, our community linkages, finance risk committee, our health and safety policies, especially for our staff, and the way they work, we work through the rigor. And I have to be honest with you, I've been through a number of audits in my lifetime, and never have I ever had an audit that I've had no findings. So we're pretty proud of that record, and it just shows that we are delivering services in line with our PHO service agreement. And I remind you what those 3 things are. That is Māori, community, and our general practice teams, in no particular order. So, of course, we need our general practice teams to provide services to support our Māori and our ethnicity challenges that we have, especially in this particular area, and with not only Pacific Islander population, but also the growing Asian population coming through here. So, look, that's just one thing, and I don't really want to start blowing the trumpet off at it, but our outfit. But basically, coming back to a little bit down to what's going on here in this patch at the moment. And there's been quite a little bit happening, and a lot of it's been happening at national level too. So at the moment, we are working with Amiri at the moment. Their GP workforce is a bit of a challenge for us at the moment up there, and we're just trying to support them through their recruitment processes for further GPs. And not too sure if you're aware, but the practice manager there has just resigned too in the last week or so. So again, that's something just a little bit closer to home that we are conscious of, and stepping into that space to try and support Amiri so that they can continue provision of service. So with that, I've been speaking to Hamlet Springs and to make sure that there can be that sort of crossover, especially when they've got nurse-only clinics that their GPs can support that. So we've got works in progress, and Mary will be talking to you a little bit further about that later on. But now I just want to come to a little bit more around the national level and the impact that this has on the Hurunui district, but as well as our Ashburton district and our Banks Peninsula. So first of all, I do want to just share with you that recently I was appointed to the board of Haroata Whenua. And you're going to ask me what Haroata Whenua is. So if you do go on the website, Haroata Whenua, it is an organisation that's been set up to support rural services. So it came out of the old Rural General Practice Network. So it was general practice focus, but they expanded with that. So Haroata Whenua is not only just about general practice, it is about community. It is about research. It is about the rural hospitals, etc. So you can see what we're trying to do here is that we want to keep promoting the rural voice. And I will be honest with you that over the last 6 or 7 months, the rural voice has been heard loud and clear. There is significant progress being made in regarding funding for rural services, and the way capitation, which is the mechanism that our general practice teams get paid, will be paid. And the rural adjuster, and that flows into then the rural urgent and unplanned care model, which we're still working through at the moment, and there's a number of trial programs underway. One is in Golden Bay, and the other one is in Wanaka, and I think Waiheke Island. They're the three that have been chosen. So more on that in the next time if you invite Serena and I back. So one thing that we have been doing is, in conjunction with Haroata Whenua, we have made a number of presentations to all the local government New Zealand networks, and we went down to Dunedin, and we were recently invited back to Wellington to present up there. And what I'm pleased to say is that there have been a number of local government organisations join the Rural Communities chapter of Haroata Whenua, Hurunui being one of them, and we welcome that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of this things I want to try and share with you. Matt Ducey. Now, I know you all know who Matt Ducey is. So Minister Matt Ducey is actually our Associate Rural Health Minister, working alongside Mark Peterson. Anyway, one of the things that he's been doing is actually undertaking a number of road shows to promote rural services and the challenges that we have in rural. I was successful in getting the Hurunui on that list. So that meeting date is July the 7th, 10 o'clock. And I've been speaking to Paul just about that even this morning. We've got another meeting on Friday just to announce that. And it'll be really good if a number of councillors could attend that. I've invited the practices, they're aware of this. And I've also included Kaikoura in that, and I'm also going to include Dan, just about forgot his name, Dan Gordon from the Waimea, if they could attend that particular session. We will be setting it up by Zoom also, so that if you are able to physically be in attendance, that to link in. And the reason for that is I'm actually quite keen to have the Hurunui District council members actually involved in actually what we're trying to achieve here. And so the earlier you can get involved, the earlier that we can actually all support each other to ensure the sustainability of primary care services in the Hurunui District. When I talk about primary care services, I'm not just talking about GPs. not just talking about nurses. I'm actually talking about all the other associated services, which, as a PHO, we try and get delivered so that we have equity of service provision. So with that in mind, Harold Te Whenua was very, one of the things that came up was about the lack of ultrasound services for midwives. And you have a couple of midwives up here in this region that supports this area. And so we've been working with Australia and the Otago of University, and we've now developed a midwife ultrasound course/session. And again, I was pleased to get the two individuals that operate in this particular area on that initial course. So they have been trained. Waitaha Primary Health funded that. It wasn't cheap, but we felt that that was very important because it will take an enormous amount of pressure off mums to be, to avoid them travelling into the location where the ultrasound services could be delivered. The next challenge for us is to actually look at ways that we can actually purchase a mobile ultrasound machine so that our midwife here, based in Greta Valley, covering the Hurunui, can have an ultrasound machine in her car. Now, these are things that we would never talk about 2 or 3 years ago, but this is the importance of actually having the Paora legislation and enhancing rural services. I believe that that particular service attached to their general practice team so that the midwife can provide that service, ultrasound, in our practices will lead to better care and linkages with our primary care when baby's born. It's as simple as that. And so, you know, how I find that money for an ultrasound machine, don't know, but I will be working through that and I'll be raising the board on Wednesday. Tomorrow? No.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Okay, to see if we can actually purchase that as a trial. So 10 people have been through the initiative, two people operating in the Hurunui. That's because of your support to me to try and get some of these sort of things. So just a little bit of an example.
Just how much are we looking at for a mobile ultrasound?
Well, the early indications are $20,000, so that's a little bit beyond my delegated authority, but it's within Lorna's. But again, I don't want to make those decisions without the board.
I was just wondering if anyone knows any farmers who want to provide an ultrasound machine for the district.
Yeah. Look, it's easy, and there'll be more opportunities like that. So look, 7th of July is the Matt Ducey visit, 10 o'clock. There will be a Zoom setup call in it, but I'll know a little bit more on that on Friday when I've been speaking to Paul. Rural Fest. Now that Hurunui District Council is a member of Haroa Te Whenua, Rural Fest is coming up on the 16th of July. You're going to ask me what Rural Fest is. Rural Fest is where the members of Haroa Te Whenua get together, and last year was about 50 of us, and we went to Parliament. And we organised visits on the 16th with all the political parties. Having a presence there from Hurunui would be great for me. Dan Gordon has attended that in the past. Maori has supported us there, but unfortunately the 16th of July is a clash with local government New Zealand meeting, and it's a real pain. We've tried to shift it, but we can't. So I know Maori can't be there, but there could be a councillor that could be supportive in person to that date. I'm just giving you a heads up. The 16th, I'll begin talking with Dan about that, because having a presence like that, even just having the opportunity to talk to the politicians, means a lot to me, because I can't keep doing it by myself. It's the community linkages, which is what you bring, that actually strengthens us in that. The other one I want to talk to you about is that I managed to get Dr. Ken Whelan and Dr. Brian Betty down here in the Hurunui a couple of months ago. Who are they? Dr. Ken Whelan is one of the senior people of Health New Zealand on the board. And Brian Betty is a GP in his own right, but he is the chair of General Practice New Zealand. It was a very informative meeting. We invited St John to be there, and I was pleased to see attendance from all the practices were there, both the practice managers as well as their trust chairs. They had the opportunity to share with Ken and Brian the challenges of delivering services to rural. We had Dan and Murray join that meeting by Zoom, because they'd also clashed with another one of those council meetings. But it was good to have them there too. And the reason why I'm saying that is that what they heard from you, rather than coming from me, and they've already heard it from me, was such that Ken indicated that he wanted to come back and have another meeting. Now, he's heading overseas. So next Wednesday, the 13th, whatever that is, next Wednesday. We have whatever it is. We have now teed up another meeting with Dr. Ken Whelan and Brian Beattie just to keep the momentum going regarding some of the challenges of sustainability, not only fiscally but workforce-wise for the Hurunui. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about that too, that they actually want to come back and actually listen to our story, listen to your stories, listen to your community stories as far as health being is concerned. So the 13th of May, and I'm happy to share that with you, Mario. I don't know if you can be there, but if somebody can.
Unfortunately, we've got an extraordinary council meeting.
I understand that. But again, if you can share that with the members, and if one of them, two of them want to join that forum, I'm more than happy for that to happen. They can just listen in and report back, because that's the way we can connect. Okay.
Because it's at 1 o'clock, I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, at this stage, 1 o'clock. Yeah, I'll send you the invite. We'll go from there. I don't know if you want to. So the other one, just talking at a national level before we come down to a little bit more closer to home. Aotearoa Whenua has been successful for the first time ever to bring the Rural Wonka Conference to New Zealand. It's going to be in Wellington between the 10th and the 13th of April 2026. Wonka, what does that mean? I had to look it up myself this morning because I thought one of you folks would ask me. And it stands for the World Organization of National College Academic Association of General Practice Family Physicians. There you go. But anyway, bringing this to New Zealand for the first time, this is a world event. And we've got that, and the focus has been on rural services, addressing some of the inequity and the indigenous issues that we have. So a heads up, members, to you all, the 13th to the 10th to the 13th of April 26. It'd be great to have Mari / one of you all folks there supporting that process. You are members of Aotearoa Whenua. I'm sorry I can't afford to pay for your tickets or your accommodation, but that'll be the way it goes. But again, heads up. No agenda has been set for that, but again, as part of this forum, we'll keep you in the loop about that. So lots happening in the rural space at the moment. So a little bit closer to home now. Last time I was here, I gave you a little bit of an update around the after-hour urgent care model that's been going on at national level. There is a report out, but we can't share that report. We've been asked not to share that report. And part of that is because of the Treasury bid for funding. We don't know if we've been successful at that. The budget's coming out shortly in another 2 weeks. So there may be some little information that I can trickle through to Marie or to your members just to tell you what's going on in that space. All PHOs are in this boat at the moment. The Te Whatu Ora made a decision earlier on, or late last year, that all current contracts that the PHO have, and this applies to all PHOs throughout New Zealand, they all expire on the 30th of June 2025. To date, as at the 6th of May, I have no idea what's going to happen to my contracts from the 1st of July. This impacts on general practice. This impacts on what we can do. Now, clearly, by the timeframes that we're dealing with, they just can't give us notice that we're going to lose contracts. There's got to be a time lead into that. But you can sort of see the unsettledness, the uncertainty that this is creating, especially with staff. And I am losing 1 or 2 staff at the moment. I've had the highest turnover of staff in the last 12 months that I've had in 22 years. And that's because of the uncertainty that's going on here within the health sector. At least we're not working for Te Whatu Ora at the moment. They've been going through JIP. There's no doubt about that. And the reset of that is still continuing. But you need to know that the challenges are there for your PHO that supports your practices, that we don't have any contracts at the moment. We've been given assurances that some of them will be rolled over. What they are, I don't know. But our concern is those contracts that we have that are what they call in Christchurch, Te Whatu Ora, DHB, discretionary spend. We don't know what's happened with those. And that's the things like lactation services, etc. So it's a little bit of a worry as we work through that. But we just got to, keep our head above water and be proud of the services we've delivered. And as Serena has indicated, having an audit that we had stands us in good stead. If we were pinged off for not delivering services, I would be a lot more worried. So, and with that, South Canterbury. South Canterbury, the PHO activity sits in the DHB there. The DHB's made a decision down there to exit that into a PHO environment. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, we made a presentation to the business owners, practice managers down in South Canterbury regarding the role of Waitaha Primary Health to be their support agent down there. We don't know the outcome of that. We understand that Well South, which is the main PHO in Southland, as well as Pegasus. You've probably heard of Pegasus, opposition here in Christchurch, but we do work closely with them. And one from the North Island, the National Horror Coalition, they have also put in their presentation bits. We don't know what's happening with that. What I am hopeful for is that if we are successful in that, while it might just detract us a little bit from our own patch at the moment, we'll have to upskill, but it will strengthen the rural voice. There's no doubt about that, having a strong rural advocate for PHOs at national level standing by you. So all I have to do is just give you a heads up. We may not be successful on that, but if we are, what does that mean? We've got to work through that. So just to summarise where I'm up to at the moment, no contracts, no idea of any percentage uplift. Tomorrow after the board meeting, I am flying to Wellington because we're having a meeting in the evening, as well as the next day we are meeting with the PSAT negotiators regarding uplifts of contracts, and that applies to the practice payments, what we pay our general practice teams. So hopefully I can actually share with them potentially a capitation uplift. There is also some work going on around the rural adjuster being included in the capitation. We don't know what that rural adjuster sum is. We don't know if it's going to be included or not. But those are sorts of things that we're just working through at the moment. So, folks, there is a lot going on at the moment. There is a lot of uncertainty. I'm conscious that it is the 6th of May. Our practices are trying to deal with their budgets for the 25-26 fiscal year, and I haven't been in a position to share anything with them at the moment. So that's just where we are. So it's not all negative, but it's not all positive. But we are dealing with some pretty significant changes in the health sector, driven by the current government policy of actually having a look at how money is being spent. And I don't want to get into political environments. It's not my game. My game is to try and deliver services. So those are the sort of things that I've just written down for you today. Anything else I want to ask? Have you got anything else in here?
No, you've ticked there.
So I know you've given me half an hour, but I'm not going to probably utilise it, Marie, but there we go.
That's great. Thank you, Serena and Bill. And so maybe there are some questions, and just before we get open up for some questions, councillors have probably seen, I mean, I saw that the roadshow that you're talking about in the local North Canterbury News, I think, and the farmer magazines, it's been advertised, and I've just gone online and it come back to me and said the venue will come back to you as it gets a bit closer. So there's obviously still some planning. So councillors could easily see that, and just if they want to attend, book in to go to that roadshow on the 7th of July. So it's publicly advertised. That's what I saw. So that's great. So look, there might be some questions, just to tease out a little bit more the challenging environment that we hear that you're working in. I think we're all probably all working in a similar space, to be fair. We all understand budgets and constraints, and on the other side of that, opportunities as well. But really, it's great that you've secured Dr. Ken and Brian to come back next week, and it's just a shame that it is a bit of a clash for our attendance, because it does sit with an extraordinary meeting where we're going to determine our local water done well process. So that for us is a big issue within our council. So I imagine that we wouldn't be able to attend, but let's just take some questions and see where we go. So it looks like Vince, you've got your hand up, and Robbie,
I'm
let's,
just worried up in Cheviot, for the Haranui is there's the district nurse is losing the ACC contract. And I've known patients that, are meant to get wound care every day, they're only getting it once a week. ACC seems just to be doggy from, standing back and looking, and I know it's, you guys know that it's a loss of service. It's the providers from Christchurch don't want to go to these remote places, so they say, oh, we'll cover once a week instead of every day. So, patients are actually ending worse off because they're just not getting the care. And, to me, that's a big backward step in our community.
There's
all these meetings and everything, but I'm just looking at, this seems to be a bit of a policy thing in ACC, there's a bit of, it's just, the patient doesn't seem to be involved.
So Vince, this is what I've been trying to share with you. I have been talking to Faye, and I have been talking to Don just about the loss of an ACC contract. But having a letter come to me outlining your concerns as a council goes it's a lot stronger than just the PHO writing a letter. So if the council is prepared to write me a letter, I will then write a cover letter to that so that this can be reviewed. It's nonsense. And this is exactly what the Parole legislation is not about. It is about equity of service provision. And we need the NGOs and we need the other parties to actually fulfill their role in ensuring the well-being of the people. And you folks now have got a role in supporting me in that. I can't keep doing it by myself. I'm seen as a bureaucrat sometimes, but I don't try to be. If I do try to be a bureaucrat, I try to be the best one.
It's a loss, because it was the only.
Just like the loss of your rest home.
When the patient gets told to go to live in Christchurch for 2 weeks.
And that can't be provided in the general practice. I know it's not as ideal as being in the home, but
What's
they
the
go.
cost? It can be done.
Because the patient had a major accident, they expect them to either travel or shift from their residence, and they can't provide. They're getting told that by the specialists in the hospital say it needs it every day.
Yeah.
And
so a letter from you folks supporting that would be great.
so I think that would be a good outcome, because I totally agree with what you're talking about, Vince. And if we can frame up a letter, does the letter go to you, Bill?
Yeah,
Where does the letter go to?
Comes to me, and then I can actually send it to ACC, and I can also send it to Te Whatu, so I can actually raise it all sorts of places.
Yeah.
I'd also raise it. I'd also raise it with the.
Yeah.
I'd also raise it with the rural, urgent, and unplanned care. That's where it sits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got avenues to do that.
Okay. I think that's a worthy. I think the scenario that you're speaking of, it won't be the only scenario that will be a negative impact for community service. So yeah. Okay.
it's just a
We can
case
follow that
of
through.
losing the service.
Yeah, no, just makes good sense. So thanks for raising that. That's a good outcome from today's discussion. Robbie, did you have your hand up?
It's been hard to keep track of some of the changes going on at the moment because in a few areas it's happening really fast. Can you just very simply summarise for me the family tree, if you like, from the minister down where we are now, and crystal ball gazing, listening to the tom-toms, do you see any changes to that, or where do you think the likely changes might be? Where do you sit now with, what's the...
So basically, it's the Minister to Health, Te Whatu Ora Wellington. Yeah. Then there's a regional office which is now getting, meant to be strengthening about making local decisions. Yeah. I report straight back to that regional office.
Which used to be the DHB.
Yeah, which used to be the DHB.
All the PHOs are sitting
underneath that, under that regional approach. But this is the importance why, being a member of GPNZ and also being on the board of Haroa Te Whenua lifts our input above local regions. Okay, so now we're trying to get change at national levels, which will then flow back to regional level. I'm trying to answer your question in 2 parts, really. So answer the first bit was I report directly to the DHB or Te Whatu Ora Regional. Okay, But my other advocacy role is actually trying to bypass that and go to the higher level so I can actually drive change to regional so that I can get change. And this is where I really want, this one, I'm really pleased that Huranui is with us now. Waimak's with us, Ashburton's joined up, and now I'm chasing Nelson and Marlborough to join up and Kaikoura. So if I can get a real solid local government New Zealand network behind me, guess what? Carries more clout than me just standing there by the flag or whatever. That's where I'm coming from.
And you feel there's more of a direct route into the people that can make change.
Mari and Dan, when they come to me to Rural Fest, okay, or they come and support me at our urgent care, prime, all that sort of stuff, carries more weight than me just rabbiting on. They get hurt. I get hurt, but they get hurt plus, if you know what I mean.
So from the crystal ball gazing side of it, do you see any, like as the, it's probably a question you made about bouncy yet, it's just that things are still coming through, but is there any bits that are in danger of not going the way you'd like them?
Well, at the end of the day, our regional office, okay, is very much focused on trying to tweak, reset the hospital sector. Very little has been done at the moment to the primary care sector. But actually, what should be happening is actually, if you can get the primary care sector operating in a more consistent, enhanced level, it will take the pressure off the hospital sector. So it's all
Top of the cliff. Yeah.
it's all round the wrong way, and I would say it differently. Got a few females around here, so it's all back to front.
There's,
But without GPs and without nurses, actually, that's what they should be supporting, because we don't have local services with equity of service provision. Like I've just been having a look at some of the data that's coming through about the number of over 80s that are actually landing in hospital that's coming from the rural areas. And it's twice as hard as those people over 80s living in urban centres. Why? Because they're not the alternative services. They're out of hospital. Well, that's not equity. So when I start raising the flag, they start, oh, you've got to have a look at this. But, I'm getting a bit old in the tooth now, so I'm just, getting a bit tired, but got to keep battling.
and one of the concerns with all the changes going on in Te Whatu Ora is there's lots of relationships and institutional knowledge and people who know what it's like to be rural. People are losing their jobs all over the show. So where there was that relationship, you have to start again with someone new who doesn't have maybe a secure tenure anyway and is out looking for a job somewhere else. So it's becoming more complex in that way as well. And just ring and say, hey, and have to start to do stuff.
But if I could just think, there's a very almost sad but interesting article in the news the other night with a doctor that wasn't retired, lines had set up vehicles, and they were out there in the community doing free stuff. And I sort of thought, well, that's great, you guys, but I thought it's a bit sad that you have to do that. It's like there's a hole in our system where the volunteers and the local lines and a doctor that was retired and kept his ticket and that are out there doing it for free to. I thought we've slipped a bit if we.
Yeah, we shouldn't be depending on that.
Okay, thank you, Pauline.
I just wanted to acknowledge that uncertainty around, the loss of contracts, that's due to hit on the 30th of June. And you mentioned there's a lead-in period to, what is happening. Do you get a sense that there might be a budget thing that might come in budget week, or? I mean, here we are, we're only 7 weeks out, and that's really hard for the people in those positions.
Well, I'll give you an example. Waitaha Primary Health still hasn't received, I hope it's not been recorded, but still hasn't received.
Recorded.
It is.
Yeah.
I can
And live
make it.
streaming, so maybe if you want to be cautious about.
Yeah, so look, Te Whatu Ora at the moment haven't got their finalised budget for 25-26. That's our local region. So when they haven't got a finalised budget, actually it makes it hard for them to make some decisions about what they're going to put aside for hospital services versus what's left over for primary care, and then that affects on our contracts. So this is where the budget is actually quite important. That we just need to see what's happening there.
Yeah, and it's a flow down effect, isn't it?
But really, the message to you is no contracts yet from past the 30th of June, and I can't hide that, and that's reported. Well, that's reported. That's the truth of the matter. also, you know, if there's any report out of this session, just be good, because I'd rather be open with you all, just sharing with you what's going on, rather than be the bad guy from Te Whatu Ora. I don't want to. I've still got to have that rapport with them. I've still got to build that relationship with
Of
them.
course, and we expect that or appreciate that, because you're the link to, you know, organisation, I guess, in due respect. So yeah,
But you know, the message is rural voice has been heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's great.
And it's really positive to see, and there's a whole lot of stuff happening.
Okay, question from Vanessa and
Actually,
Karen.
it's not a question, I just wanted to comment, I just wanted to say that, you know, in an incredibly challenging environment, and these frustrations and uncertainties that you're facing, I really admire your tenacity and your drive to keep pushing. And as a councillor, I fully endorse this council to support you in that role, and more so moving forward. Well done, I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, look, thanks for that. And yeah, I just want the rural people to have a fair go, because they haven't had it. You know, and I've got to, you know, have contracts where, you know, my PHOs in urban environments don't have to fund, you know, like Meals on Wheels to Hammer Springs. That's just nonsense. You know, high risk podiatry and dietitian services. Well, you can buy those in urban Christchurch, but actually I've got to fund that. And you can't expect Hammers to be able to buy that by themselves, because they have to pay premium dollars. What I have to do is negotiate contracts with those people delivering those services, say based in Ringiora, that part of your contract for me is actually deliver equitable service to the Huronui. So, you know, it's a pull. And then I have to argue the toss, because it costs more than they're prepared to pay in Christchurch. Well, you know, yourselves, you know. Yeah.
Thanks. Good comments. Thank you, Vanessa. Karen, I think you had something to say.
Yes, I did. I wanted to endorse what Vanessa's saying. Thank you very much for what you're doing, and just thinking more in terms of advocacy and what we can do. It's great that you feel Huronui is supporting you, and you know that's what I would endorse as well. When I first began as a councillor, I joined the Huronui Hauora advocacy group, and that was sort of active at the time, but then it became really clear that things were not lining up, and the advocacy group was kind of willing and able, but the Te Whatu Ora side of things wasn't in that space, I guess, to be able to respond to anything, because they were uncertain, if I can put it that way. It sounds like that might still be the case. Like, is there a role for a group like that as well, or is the council support more useful at the moment?
I'm very conscious that the Huronui is well, that's got a large geographical spread. It's small. The Waimak, they have a health advisory group, okay, and they invite local Te Whatu Ora people to those meetings every second meeting. Ashburton does the same. So Mari used to look after that and chair that meeting for the Huronui service. What was it called?
Huronui Health Services Development Group, or whatever it's called.
And we used to have Te Whatu Ora staff come to those every now and then, in conjunction with St John and ACC and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that, yes, there is a role for support of that. But when Mari and Dan turn up to some of my meetings, when you've got Ken Whelan there and Brian Betty there, that is pretty strong, you know, and that's why I've got this repeat meeting, because we got heard that day. Okay, they only joined in for 20 minutes by the Zoom call, but I tell you, there was other members for the practice manager and those trust owners, my jingos, they got the message, and I just sat there, let them go, because that's my real, I've done my job, let them go, and now they want to come back. Now, how good's that? You know, you jokers are being heard now. And so, you know, I'm really pleased that you're part of Aotearoa Whenua, because I need your support. And I do also need your support to actually try and get other local governments online with us, because, you know, we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mayors at our Rural Fest meetings with Parliament. Carries a lot more weight than just PHOs turning up. It does, Murray. That's the reality. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And you know, you're supporting the advocacy that we're trying to do. Because I have to bypass local, because I have to go north now, so that we can drive change at local.
So just for transparency, that we've joined the Aurora Ka Whenua for the first time. I think it was about $1,100. Is that correct? And we only just paid that subscription. I just we felt from those meetings that it was a, we were going to bring benefit by actually being involved from a council perspective. So that's, it's the first time I think Harinui is actually been a subscription member from a rural perspective. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
One quick question, what level of support do you get from an advocacy perspective from LGNZ?
The linkages we're developing with LGNZ have been primarily through Murray and Dan. Okay, so we did a presentation down to Dunedin. We did one to Wellington. We had Kapiti Coast on the line yesterday with me. Dr. Joe Scott Jones from Waikato has asked us to go up there and do a presentation to their local government, New Zealand networks. As far as the advocacy is concerned, I think it's a learning curve, or we want to strengthen that advocacy through LGNZ. So I've been speaking to Dan. Well, I want to speak to him again tomorrow because I want to get back in the face of the mayors again and their CEOs. Yes, it might cost me another trip to Dunedin, or if the next one's in Christchurch, we'll rock up. Because if we're in your face for $1,100 to be a member of Aroha Whenua, it's cheap. If you've got spare cash, you give us 5,000, and then we can come back and do the rural careers program. That's something else that we've been working on. So we've been going out to all the area schools in our rural areas to try and encourage students to take up the health sciences. Because what we're finding, and I'm now talking about the next generation, but if we can get them into the sciences, get them into the medical profession, regardless of what it is, and then they come back to local town, that's what it is. So we've got to try everything. Yeah.
So just to be clear, Bill presented at Zone 5 and 6 in Dunedin last year, so that incorporated metro, regional, rural and provincial councils from across the South Island, and then was invited back through LGNZ to rural and provincial, which incorporated rural and provincial councils across New Zealand. So the spread of knowledge started with the South Island through Zone 5 and 6, and then it went rural and provincial. And that's the presentation that and
so that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
We'd like to continue those dialogues to
Yeah.
answer your question, because that's where I can see we can strengthen advocacy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Dan and Marie got a role to play.
I definitely think, Karen, that sort of very local advocacy is important, but because of the state of things, it's easier if we go up and come down at the moment.
And it seems really clear that the Hauora Te Whenua is the mechanism now, which is being used very effectively to activate a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And that it makes a lot of sense to me that that's more the focus. And I think that probably reflects the way things have evolved as others have joined your voice, Bill, around rural and advocating. And it seems like some of the dots are being joined up more nationally now too, so that you're getting a groundswell of support, if I can put it that way. That's what I'm picking up from what you're saying.
Get the membership,
That's the right focus for now.
get the Rural Support Trust joining us, and you get the midwives joining us. You know what's happening? It's starting now. It's just taken 5 years.
wonderful. Thank you. Is there any other comments from, Dave, you've got a comment? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yep,
Can you hear me?
good. Yep.
Good that you're going into various schools and looking for talent. I remember it at the last time or time before I asked about that. I know in the Harinui and in the Murray that there's quite a talent of people that sort of need to finish their qualification. They might have been migrants and nurses in the Philippines and in India in particular. I know of an American that's traveling into town that's right into ultrasound and scanning and all that type of stuff. Have you done a stock take of what you've actually got out in the area? Because those are the people that are going to stay glued into the Murray, because the primary, well, that's where the employment is.
Yeah, thanks, David, and good question. So answer your question, honestly, no, I haven't done a stock take. B, it was raised in the Ken Whelan, Brian Betty meeting, just at high level, just about potential workforce and some of the challenges. And I hope that that comes up again next week, because when you've got local Te Whatu Ora staff there, as well as those bodies from Wellington, actually, that's where we have to try and make some change. So that's where I'm up to at the moment with it. But
Yeah,
no,
but because maybe
I've
that
not done a
source,
stock day.
maybe that source of information might be via your practices, that they know of those people, or getting them amongst the migrant communities to find out, you know, they're only maybe a step away from doing the qualification, and maybe taking the English component out. So or finding out what they need. And I know of a number of them that are so close, but it's just that factor of that block course and you've already got them in the community.
Yeah,
But I did ask it 6 months ago.
Thanks, I've taken a note of it.
Okay. Thank you for responding to the questions that have come from the floor. I mean, there's a lot of intel that sits around this room around health and health provision across our district, but it's been said, but I just want to reinforce the fact that we really appreciate the work that you do for our community in that space. It's really important that we continue to have a strong connection and consider the well-being of our community, you know, at the grassroots, and that's very much what you've been talking about today, and how we can better support that and strengthen that, those outcomes. You know, we're up for that as a district and as a council that represents the community. So yeah, really grateful for your time this morning. Thank both very much. It's been very helpful, and what we will do is actually get a letter of support to you in regard to the ACC service provision changes that our community is facing and will continue to face if we don't support your voice. So we will get that information to you ASAP. But thanks very much, and probably maybe an apology needs to come from us at next week's meeting. I was at one of our trust meetings last night, and Hugh Mitchison talked about the meeting. So yeah, but I get a sense that probably our council needs to have a full quorum at the decision.
The reason why it's the 30th that he flies out on the 14th. He's away for 3 months.
Yeah.
So I keep hammering him. You said you're going to come back in 3 months.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great that you're doing it. It's great that it's being hosted in Hamner Springs. And the other thing is, I just encourage councillors to, you know, book into that roadshow that's on the 7th of July as well. So with that, we'll call our meeting to a close. Thank you very much, Jason, for support. But what we're going to do, councillors, we'll have morning tea, and then we'll come back, and we haven't had we need to finish off our councillor only session.